Hi, my name is Torvald and I want to make a quick little Keyforge strategy video for you guys since I've been playing the game a whole lot since it came out. Today what I'm going to talk about is card counting. Now, card counting isn't illegal in Keyforge like it is in Blackjack, and it's also a lot easier. It's easier because the discard piles are open information in Keyforge, so you can look at your opponent's discard pile at any point and see what cards he's played, and you can look at your own discard pile at any point to see what cards you've played. This is what forms the basis for card counting in Keyforge. The way you card count in Keyforge is you look at your opponent's board, you look at your opponent's artifacts, creatures, and then you look at the discard pile. Then you see for each house how many of that house your opponent has played. And it's the same for you, but this time you can also take your hand into consideration. Now, what card counting lets you do are a couple of different things. The most basic level of card counting that I'm going to explain in this video first, so that you get the hang of it, is card counting in the event of Wrestling Gunters or Control the Weak. Now, here, what you generally want to do when you play Wrestling Gunters, especially if you play it while your opponent has no board that can kill Wrestling Gunters, is try and pick the house that your opponent has the highest chance of having the most of in their hand. Let's say you have this turn, you destroy your opponent's board, and then you put down Wrestling Gunters. Now you look in the discard pile and see what house has he played the least of. What house will he have the highest chance of having a hand that's full of? Because if you hit a house where your opponent has 6 of that house in hand, then he's lost the game. Now, of course, there are some times where with Wrestling Gunters you want to choose a house that your opponent can typically kill Wrestling Gunters with. So maybe you want to choose House Shadows because they have a lot of spot removal on Nerve Blast and Relentless Whispers and Seeker Needle. But if your opponent doesn't have House Shadows or any immediate spot removal, then that's when card counting comes into play and you can choose a house that you hope your opponent has a handful of, which can win you the game. Now, the other basic form of card counting is also in House This. It's Control the Weak. Control the Weak lets you force your opponent to play a certain house. Now, this can be really smart with card counting if you count your opponent's house and see he's played a lot more of one house than the others. Maybe he's even played almost all cards from one house. Then you'll almost lock him out next turn. You count the discard pile, see how many cards has your opponent played for each house. Then you say 12 minus that. That's the amount of cards your opponents can potentially use from that house, right? So if your opponent has played 8 House Sanctum cards, they have 4 House Sanctum cards left to play. But if 2 of those are out on board, then they have then they can do more with that house next turn. So you got to take that into mind as well. The next level of card counting, and this is something that was first introduced to me when I was traveling in London, actually, for non-Keyforge related purposes. And I decided to look on the event locator and find some place to play Keyforge. And I went to the Dark Sphere, and there I met some really nice guys. And one of these people introduced me to this concept of card counting that I'm going to introduce you to now. Now, what this next type of card counting is, it's not something I'm totally sure of is the best way to play the game, but I think it's a fun and interesting strategy that you can employ and test out and see if it helps you in your decision making. Okay, that was the disclaimer. Let's go. So this process of card counting consists of you playing a turn. In this turn, you are split. You might not even have a board. You've played a bit of cards before, and your hand is, let's say it's a 3-3 hand. You have 3 Untamed and 3 Sanctum. Now, you might have an obvious play with some spot removal or something, but if you don't have an obvious play that can remove your opponent's board or give you a lot of Amber Burst or something, then the next best thing is looking through your discard pile and seeing, okay, what cards, what of these 2 houses have I played the least of? And therefore, what house do I have the highest chance of drawing into next turn? Okay, that was the example for you counting your own cards. But how about you counting your opponent's cards? This is primarily used if you have a turn where you can clear some of your opponent's board, right? So let's say you have a bit of Sanctum out, or you have a bit of Brobnar out with some power, and your opponent has quite a big board with some mixed houses on it. Now, to figure out what house you need to clear from the most, you can card count. You can look through your opponent's discard pile, see what house he's played the least, and then you can remove from that house from the board primarily, because that's the house he has the highest chance of sitting with a lot of in hand, and that reduces his incentive to play that house next turn, which means that he's likely maybe going to play something he has fewer cards of in hand, which is going to mean he has less recycling in his hand, which is going to mean he's going to hit those answer cards later, or they're going to hit those answer cards later.
They're gonna hit those answer cards later, right?
That was it for me for this quick strategy video. I said quick, I meant quick. It's just to spark some fun conversation around best ways to take your turns, right? And I love the game a lot, and I can totally see that I might be wrong, so I'd super appreciate it if you left your thoughts on it in the comments. Don't be too mean.